Hey, do you like plants and flowers? Great! Because in this video I'm going to teach you how to make several types of flowers and plants in ordinary clay or polymer clay, or in the material of your choice, starting with the easiest one up to the most difficult one. So let's begin!
This is number 1.
For this flower I took a little bit of white air-dried clay and mixed it with a drop of red paint until I had a uniform mix. Then I made a sphere and little by little I transformed it into a small cone. Then I made 4 indentations on the flat part. Then with this little tool I pressed each one of these sections to make them look like petals. And that's it! You can also put more or less paint to have flowers of different tones. Or you can also mix the clay with any other color. I don't know, do whatever the fuck you want with your...
Number 2.
For this second flower I made 5 little balls, then I glued them side by side until they formed some sort of ball ring, which I flattened with the same tool I used for the first flower, and as a final touch I put an even smaller ball in the center.
I am number 3, look at me.
Okay, first plant of the day. First I mixed ordinary clay with green paint and made a ball about the size of your brain, and with a pair of scissors I began to make those cuts, as you can see, making a row of cuts until I reached the starting point, and then I repeated the cuts in the next row. I also tried to make the cuts of the following rows kinda in between the leaves of the previous rows, and I also tried to spread these leaves a little bit.
Number 4.
For the next flower I took a small piece of ordinary clay and shaped it trying to make a teardrop shaped thing. Then in the thickest part I made a hole so it would be easier to make those cuts for the petals. I recommend using scissors a little smaller than the one I'm showing there. I didn't have another one, so I made 5 cuts and tried to make the distance between them the same. Then I opened this semi-flower and started flat and pinch, shape, massage and squeeze each one of these pieces until each one looked like a petal. Then I made a mark in the center of each petal, and as a small final detail I put a little yellow ball in the middle.
Number 5.
From this point on, things get complicated and tedious. For this flower I also made a teardrop shaped thing, but with a longer tip. Then I made a bunch of little balls of about the same size, which I flattened as I put them until they were very thin. And then little by little I dropped the teardrop in several layers of petals, and for the last batch of petals I made bigger balls so that they looked more beautiful and lush.
Number 6.
First I made several green balls of about the same size, then I flattened them and put them one on top of the other until a circle was completed. Then I improved their shape with that tool you see there, and later I made more balls and put them one by one on top of what I had already made. For the last group there was room for only 4 balls, and for the center I grabbed one of the balls, flattened it a little, rolled it up and stuck it in, as I said, in the middle. For this plant I made several teardrop-shaped pieces, then I glued them together in a way that the longest part ended up towards the middle, and once I had 5 of these pieces glued, I made a top batch. Here it is important to apply a bit of pressure in the middle so that the other part of these leaves start to lean upwards. It is also important to intercalate the top ones in relation to the bottom ones. For the next round the steps were the same, but with slightly smaller leaves, and for the last round I put 3 even smaller leaves. This is one of my favorites, so pay attention. First I stretched a little ball on one side until it had a spearhead shape, then I flattened it and did the same with more little balls. Then I glued them on the widest part until I had 5 of these, and gave them some curvature at the tip so that they wouldn't look so flat. For the next batch I did the same, but before gluing them I bent them a little bit, as you can see, to make them look more natural. Obviously I made sure to glue them in such a way that they would be intercalated with the first leaves. For the third round the process was pretty much the same but with smaller leaves, and for the middle I just put 3 smaller leaves.
Number 9.
For this one I also made some pieces with a spearhead shape, but unlike the previous plant I glued them on the longest part, and instead of gluing 5 leaves I glued 7, and at the end I bent them upwards a little bit. The next round was almost the same, but with smaller leaves, and as always I made sure that they were intercalated in relation to the first round. The third round was almost the same with even smaller leaves. Here the space was getting very tight, but I managed to fit 7 leaves, and with that it was time to make the center. So I took 4 little leaves, glued them side by side and rolled them up as you can see. Okay, and that's it! Those are the plants. Remember that you can make them in different sizes and colors. If you want to see how I used these plants, I suggest you to watch this video of a Pokemon diorama with Dragapult. The link will be in the description, so if you liked this video, give it a like and subscribe. Okay, bye!